Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Teenage girls have been taking the brunt of everybody's bullshit for far too long, and I'm here to put a stop to it. For forever now, teenage girls get communally shit on by the larger world for their likes, interests, and ambitions, whilst at the same time having some of the largest buying powers and influences on pop culture that's ever existed. Young girls, statistically, not only perform better in school than their boy counterparts, but they also mature faster than boys. And yet, teenage girls are regularly trivialized or mocked for their passions, both in the media and in their personal lives, being treated like their interests, ambitions, and opinions are fads and nothing to take seriously. Why? Well, misogyny. Gotta start them young when they won't fight back. Such silly little girls. You don't even know what you like yet. Young boys do though, of course. Boys will be boys and all that. In 2017, Rolling Stone magazine interviewed Harry Styles. Yeah, teenage heartthrob of the 2010s, fan favorite One Direction member and now very successful pop solo artist Harry Styles. And it was somewhere in this interview that he said something that I thought was so beautiful and articulate and is what inspired me to make this video. Rolling Stone wrote as follows: Styles is aware that his largest audience so far has been young, often teenage women. Asked if he spends pressure-filled evenings worried about proving credibility to an older crowd, Styles grows animated. Who's to say that young girls who like pop music, short for popular, right, have worse musical taste than a 30-year-old hipster guy? That's not up for you to say. Music is something that's always changing. There's no goalposts. Young girls like the Beatles. You gonna tell me they're not serious? How can you say young girls don't get it? They're our future doctors, lawyers, mothers, presidents. They kind of keep the world going. Teenage girl fans, they don't lie. If they like you, they're there. They don't act too cool. They like you and they tell you, which is sick. Beautiful. I just love that. And he's right. Why the hell is there this idea that teenage girls are just totally misguided in the things they love? That it's not a valid thing to like, that it's a fad. Why does it even matter if it is a fad? Fidget spinners were a fad too, and they were still fun and took the world by storm for like a month, and then we moved on. Easy. Why are people so judgmental of and oftentimes irritated at these young girls for simply existing and liking certain things? It's not enough if they like the things we tell them to like, makeup, being skinny, shopping, and it's also still somehow not enough if they go find their own things to like. We turn young women into emotional punching bags or butts of a joke for liking things. If you spend any amount of time on TikTok enjoying your fun little memes or even using it to gain a following for yourself, you have the teenage girls who popularized the app in the first place to thank for that. Same goes for Instagram. Same goes for the Beatles. Beyonce was not fucking around when she asked you who run the world. Have you guys heard of those Beatles guys I just mentioned? No, not them. No, the real guys that The Simpsons spoofed off of. These guys. Oh yeah, the Beatles. The Beatles, who are regarded as the most influential band in history. The Beatles, who were integral to development of the 1960s counterculture and recognition of popular music as an art form. The Beatles, whose biggest fans in the beginning were teenage girls. The Beatles, whose teenage girl fans were labeled as oversexed and hysterical for their die-hard love. In 1963, a notable English journalist at the time, known as Paul Johnson, wrote in an article he hilariously titled, "The Menace of Beatlism." Those who flock round the Beatles, who scream themselves into hysteria, whose vacant faces flicker over the TV screen, are the least fortunate of their generation. The dull, the idle, the failures. Poetic stuff, Paul. Let's look at what some other people have to say about the Beatles now, as well as some of their accolades you may have heard of. They are the most successful act in the history of the US Billboard charts, holding the record for the most #1 albums on the UK albums charts at 15, most #1 hits on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart at 20, and the most singles sold in the UK ever at 21.9 million. They are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the UK Music Hall of Fame, and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame. They have been nominated for 23 Grammys and have won 7. Rolling Stone said the impact of the Beatles, not only on rock and roll, but on all of Western culture, is simply incalculable. Kurt Cobain said John Lennon was his idol all his life. Barack Obama said they blew the walls down for everybody else. Vladimir fucking Putin is a known Beatles diehard. But those screaming teenage girls, the one who helped catapult them to stardom originally, hysterical and dull. Nice juxtaposition, Paul Fuxen. Aren't you supposed to be a writer? I guess any adjective with a negative connotation will do when you're taking just like a fat steaming shit on teenage girls. A writer by the name of Amy Keane, in an article for the website shots.net, put it brilliantly. We refuse to take young girls seriously, whether it's because they wear the pink dresses we bought for them, or obsess over the prettiness we told them was important, or want to marry a prince like Disney demanded, or wear too much of the makeup we sold to them. Girls have this incredible knack of irritating a world that made them that way. We laugh at their desperate duck-faced selfies that were taken with the phones their parents purchased in a social media world built by us that we know fucks them up because so much research tells us this. It's infuriating that we mock girls for growing up predictably in accordance with how we groomed them. Like the best bullies, we're grabbing the hands of girls and slapping them back in their own faces, saying, "Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?" We ridicule girls for liking things we tell them to like. We ridicule girls for liking things we don't even know anything about other than the fact that girls like it. We ridicule girls for having political opinions. We ridicule girls for having big ambitions. They can't win even when they liked the Beatles, for fuck's sake. It was the same for Frank Sinatra, initially loved by hordes of screaming girls. It was the same in the early days of US cinema, where film-struck teenage girls became Hollywood's most visible fans. It was the same as they helped popularize novels in the 18th century, only to be labeled as hysterical. It has been the same again and again, and we're still watching it happen now. Teenage girls were initially ridiculed for using TikTok in its early days, made fun of for partaking in cute lip-syncing trends or learning dances with their friends. Now TikTok has 50 million daily users in the US. Teenage girls are the main demographic of fans of K-pop, now an industry that's valued at around $10 billion US. They're the people who love Taylor Swift, who have made her Eras tour bring in $13 million US each show. There are 1,000,001 more examples I could tell you, and they all lead back to initial scorn or mockery. Why can't we just let teenage girls be? How many times over do they have to beg for you to take their passion and love as valid? Why does it have to matter so much to anyone who isn't a teenage girl? We should all be taking a page out of their book, because to go back to what Harry Styles said, teenage girl fans don't lie, they don't act too cool, they like you and they tell you. Not to mention that alongside the influence that teenage girls carry, much to the horror of those who insist they have no taste or influence, is their massive buying power. Already, women in general account for 85% of consumer purchases in the world. That is over $31.8 trillion in worldwide spending. Just like they say in 90s stand-up comedy routines, women be shopping. So then what about teenage girls specifically? Well, the top 3 categories that upper income adolescent girls spend their money on are clothing at 25%, food at 24%, and personal care at 11%. With a constant pressure to look good and present themselves well, it's unsurprising that almost a third of their spending power goes towards their appearance. Additionally, according to Forbes, 93% of parents say their children influence family and household purchases, a vast amount being for entertainment and activities. Even at a young age, where a teenage girl might not be making much of her own money, her interests and passions are most often included in the spending power made by her parents. In purchasing clothes and personal care items, it is now extremely common for selections to be made by what is being promoted to them by those they follow on social media, influencers or the artists they're fans of. Women in general are also just much more likely to pass on recommendations of items they've found to their friends, meaning that within a fandom, their influence and spending power can multiply infinitely. Still though, Teenage girls are the butt of the joke. And I seriously don't understand why beyond the general answer of misogyny. If I can take a guess though, I think it's just another thing in the long list of reasons society gives to keep the status quo as is, to benefit the people that are already at the top. The word hysteria, or for someone to act hysterical, although originally not rooted in any sort of gender, is now almost colloquially assumed to be a word associated with only women. It's this idea that women are erratic or out of control or not in their right mind, especially when expressing any sort of emotion that isn't them sitting in the corner, shutting up and letting the men speak, toots. Diagnosing someone with hysteria was an easy way to take control over these women and tell them they have some sort of illness and thereby subject them to inhumane medical practices ranging anywhere from uterine or gynecological massages, aka a doctor doing sexual acts to these women under the pretenses of it being a medical procedure, to full-blown fucking lobotomy. So we see these young girls so passionate and so in love with something that they get excited and scream with joy, and that just makes society so scared. Women are supposed to be quiet. It feels like society is worrying about just the overwhelming power women can attain when they join together. We gotta keep them separate and quiet under our thumb, not together and screaming for joy in each other's company without the watchful eye of a man. What if they're conspiring against us among all the screaming? Well, sounds like paranoia, fellas. Or is it? It's in these labels we give them, like teeny bopper, or just saying, ew, I wouldn't listen to Harry Styles, that's what little girls listen to, that infantilizes these young girls in some sort of attempt to reassure the rest of the world they're nothing to take seriously. They're just itty bitty little girls. Stupid, silly, irresponsible, crazed girls. The status quo must and will remain. If they're just itty bitty little girls, why the fuck are you so intimidated by their screaming? No, you read that right. Like, actually, really, being a part of a fandom is good for your mental health. There is endless published research that shows that experiencing a sense of belonging is important for one's mental health. I don't even need an article to tell me that. I know that when I'm at my happiest is when I feel loved and I return that love to others. The connections you have with the people around you, the importance of feeling understood can never be understated. Community with people like-minded to you, with people you can share personal and intimate parts of yourself with people who love the same things as you. As Teen Vogue put it, this is simply the modern iteration of a very primal instinct to be cared for and wanted by your tribe. It is one of the most fundamentally monkey brain things programmed into us as humans today. Lisa Baha, a therapist that specializes in working with teenage girls, speaks about something called identity versus role confusion, which is a developmental psychology term for the time in life in which young adults start to differentiate who they are from who they were taught to be. She says, during adolescence, teens are going through a time where they are forming their identity in the world. It is normal and healthy for teens to align and connect more and more with their peers than their parents. This is a wonderful process that helps teens learn how to rely less on their parents and more on themselves for healthy decision making as they become adults. We call this process individuation. This is the thing. Teenage girls should be banding together over mutual interests. If the whole world is against them and forcing them to face the same scrutiny, they should at least do it in good, like-minded company. There is already an ongoing exodus of the idea that women should compete against each other. We should compete together to better each other. Healthy competition, not fighting for the top spot in a place that only allows one woman to be at the top at one time, where that woman at the top still gets her own little unique glass ceiling for all her efforts though. Young girls are spearheading this fight together. They're finding things they love, girly or not, and through that, they're finding community. identity. And the age of social media has opened this up in a way never previously conceivable. Stans or fandoms can create sweeping change. Their influence can make a cancelled TV show be brought back again or bought by another company to give it new life. They can fight for better representation in pop culture. They can call out bad behavior and help push visibility on social issues like the Me Too movement. Just their existence proves to the world, to society, to the people selling things to us, we are here and we care about something. The new Hunger Games movie or Troye Sivan album may not matter to you personally, but the fact that it matters to others is worth considering. How can we begin to comprehend the world around us if we don't consider the things that move people? Excuse me, Lauren, what about when stans take it too far? I see Swifties and armies getting into arguments on my feeds all the time. Well, to outright condemn fandoms or stan culture just because select people take things too far is a slippery slope argument. There are always bad eggs. With this logic, we should ban everything, if only for the potential of like a small group of people taking things too far. But it is important to note, and like Lisa Baha, who I mentioned earlier, says, make sure being a fan doesn't develop into an obsession. Having several interests and layers to your identity is also healthy for teenage mental and emotional health. There is a difference between obsession and passion. Mainly, obsession conflates fiction with reality. The difference isn't necessarily who is more impassioned, it's whether or not you can maintain a healthy perspective and remain engaged in other activities and responsibilities. I will note there are many instances of stan culture being taken too far. In K-pop, stan wars have been a thing for well over a decade, and bullying is so ingrained in that culture that several K-pop idols themselves have ended their own lives due to bullying from what people call antis or anti-fans. The song Stan by Eminem literally tells the story of an obsessed fan who kills himself and his girlfriend after Eminem fails to respond to his letters. Stan or fandom culture doesn't equal obsession. It's like correlation versus causation. There are people with crazed obsessions within fandoms out there, but who says that the fandom itself is the causation? I'd say the fandom is simply a correlation. This person would likely be obsessive or crazed over something regardless if it's in their personality to be that way, meaning they are the cause. It just happens to be directed at a certain thing at that time. It is amazing and incredible to love something and to share that love with the people around you, to have the people that you love the same thing as well. But there should always be more to you as a person, more things that you love. Your fandom shouldn't be your entire identity, but instead only a section of it that makes up the larger, beautiful you. I'm not like other girls. I play games. Okay, you might think I'm about to condemn pick-me girls. Nope, I am about to defend teenage pick-me girls. Adult pick-me's, okay, that's like a completely different scenario. You're a grown adult out of the pressures of high school and literally with the freedom of the entire internet at your fingertips, like things like better health being advertised on every single YouTuber's video, and you're not even attempting to grow as a human being and trying to fix shitty learned behavior or stereotypes or internalized misogyny. Not for me, thank you. Teenage pick-me's, on the other hand, come the fuck on. Of course they exist. Firstly, to return to a previous point, everything a teenage girl does is examined, torn apart, and placed into nice little succinct boxes of assumption, oftentimes by other teenage girls as well. I was a pick-me. I was different to a lot of the girls and even people in general that I knew. I grew up online and was into games and interests that the girls at my schools just didn't understand or even knew existed. And I'll say, I went to some great schools with fantastic people. I was never bullied or excluded for my weird interests, but despite my friendships with girls in my classes, I just never felt like I fully connected to them or was understood. So I found myself spending a lot of time with boys. Not intentionally. It's just like, who the hell else was going to play games with me all night? Plus, I had an older brother and boys just felt more comfortable. I didn't know what it meant to be a girl, and I projected a lot of my own inability to understand myself onto the girls around me. But that's like a whole nother thing that my queen of a therapist is helping me out with. Pick-me's get blasted for not being a girl's girl, and oftentimes putting down other women for male attention. While that is often true, I don't think it's the full truth, and I think a lot of the time, for a lot of people, it's deeper than that. For me, I don't even think I wanted that much male attention. I just felt so rejected by womanhood and what it is to be a girl that I was desperate for friends and to be understood. I think another reason I pushed back so hard and was such an outspoken, not like other girls girl, was that I would hate the way that I'd get looped in with every other girl by the people around me, by society. Teenage girls love Justin Bieber and his iconic shaggy hairstyle. No, I don't. I fucking hate Justin Bieber. And I'm seeing the way people who like Justin Bieber are being ridiculed. I don't want to be ridiculed. I don't want to be reduced down to being a dumb teenage girl who can't make decisions for herself. The thing is, I don't think I ever actually hated Justin Bieber or One Direction or Short Stack or whatever else it was that girls my age were enjoying in their teens. One, I was young, and emotions were hard. Hate is an easy one to understand and articulate. Two, it made me feel so unseen. Why do you assume I like them? Because everyone else I know does? Why haven't you taken the chance to listen to me or get to know me? I'm 14 and everywhere around me I'm being told I have to look a certain way. Early 2000s heroin chic, anyone? Act a certain way, be a certain way. Par the course for being a woman in our society. I was so desperate for an identity, and I constantly felt like I was being placed into little boxes by the media and people around me. And tomboy didn't feel right. Tomboy suggested masculinity or even androgyny, and I felt very femme. I was scared of makeup, but I loved my long hair and feeling girly. So then what was the next option? I'm not like other girls. And, you know, it was true. I wasn't. But then you're around these boys as well, who are the only people you know who have the same interests as you, and you're desperate for friendship. Desperate to be heard, desperate to share your love of things with the people around you, in the same way that other girls got to share and celebrate their love of Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber is just my generation example. Fill in your blank here. Harry Styles maybe, or Taylor Swift. But then you never truly get in with these all-male friendship groups, because cooties are real apparently. My whole life, I've felt frustrated in a lot of my friendship groups, especially gaming or online ones, where I'm often one of the only girls, but then I don't get invited to things the same way the boys do, because the boys don't see me as one of them. So you're stuck in this horrible middle space where you genuinely feel like girls don't get you, and the guys hang out with you but see you as different, and you just have nobody. And then society dogs on you anyway. Shits on you anyway. You just can't win. Plus, you know, the guys and the people around you also start telling you, you know, you don't like other girls. You know what? You're right. I'm fucking not. Somebody tell society that, please, because maybe my interests will finally get treated with, like, validity or something. Tell me what to do, please. Okay, but what about the teenage girls who do want male attention? And they put down other girls just to get it, to seem different. Well, that's just a bitch. And I'm sorry to use such a gendered word in a girl power video, but mean people come in all different shapes and sizes. Of course, a ton of them are pick-me's, who a lot of the time are girls who have been rejected by other girls or have even been bullied by them. It's never the right thing to do, stooping to other people's levels, but they're teenagers. Listen and learn and try to educate them. Help them see that their differences are positives and that everyone is different, and in the same way they're being stereotyped for being different, they're likely also stereotyping every other girl around them themselves. Just because someone follows trends, likes popular music artists, doesn't mean they're blind, deaf, and dumb. Things are mainstream and popular for a reason. And I say this as a recovered pick-me and still huge compulsive contrarian myself. I just feel so much for teenage girls and boys, but oh man, It's so hard being a teenager. I can't even imagine what it must be like to be growing up right now with things like TikTok and the general state of social media alongside the pains of going through puberty and all the wonderfully horrible things that accompany that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Perhaps a like or a subscribe wouldn't be nice? Also, oh my god, how many times do you think I said teenage girls in this video? I should have done a counter. Somebody count it for me, please. I got a big video on the way for the next one, which I am really excited to put out. I'm putting in a lot of research in it. The script is huge, but I'm so excited for it, and I have a ton of more video ideas coming on the way. So, you know, if you like this, watch it, maybe share it, do all that fun stuff. Also, I love you, and like we should hang out later or something. Bye.